Have you ever faced a moment so heavy, so unexpected, that it forced you to decide what kind of person you truly are? Before the storm, before the courtroom, before fate revealed its impossible twist, there was a single choice on a dark road. A choice that would change everything. But Marcus did not know that yet. He only knew the rain, the exhaustion, and the weight of a life collapsing faster than he could hold together. One broken down car. One impossible choice. A single father fighting accusations he could not outrun, driving home through a storm that felt as violent as the chaos inside him. Marcus blinked hard, eyes burning from double shifts at the warehouse. Loading trucks. Scanning boxes. Moving and moving because if he stopped, if he let himself think too long about the trial date circled in red on the kitchen calendar, he might fall apart entirely. 3 weeks. He had 3 weeks before everything ended. Then he saw it through the sheets of rain. A pair of hazard lights blinking weakly on the side of Riverside Drive. A bright red luxury car pulled to the shoulder, the kind of car worth more than he would earn in 5 years. A woman stood beside it, soaked to the bone, one hand gripping her phone in frustration, the other wrapped around herself against the cold. Marcus felt his foot leave the gas pedal. His car slowed. A voice inside him whispered, "Keep driving. You are exhausted. She has money. She has insurance. She has people who can help her." But something about her posture, the way her shoulders shook, the quiet desperation in the curve of her back, pulled at him. And then came another voice. His mother's voice. Soft. Firm. Unforgettable. Character is what you show when everything is falling apart, Marcus. Everything was already falling apart. Victor Thompson. The name tasted bitter. 6 months earlier, $47,000 had vanished from the company accounts. 6 months earlier, Victor had looked him in the eyes and accused him of taking it. 6 months earlier, Marcus's world had collapsed. And Victor had better lawyers. Better connections. Better everything. The forged signatures. The doctored records. The fake emails. Every piece of evidence pointed at Marcus. If convicted, he faced up to 5 years. 5 years without Jasmine. 5 years of his little girl drifting through foster homes because her mother had walked out when she was only 2 years old. The image of 7-year-old Jasmine with her missing front tooth and her shoes always on the wrong feet. Alone in a system that did not care. Nearly broke him. Yet Marcus stopped the car. He stepped into the rain. He raised both hands so the woman could see he meant no harm. "Ma'am, are you all right? Car trouble?" Fear flickered across her face. It made sense. A lone woman. A deserted road at midnight. A stranger approaching in the dark. But after a long pause, she nodded. "It just died. It will not turn over. Mind if I take a look?" He asked gently. "I am no mechanic, but I can try." "Please," she said. "I would appreciate that." She opened the hood. Cold rain hammered his neck as he leaned into the engine. For the first time all day, Marcus felt a tiny breath of relief. This problem, he could fix. This problem did not involve courtrooms or evidence or the fear in his daughter's eyes. Within minutes, he found it. "Your battery terminal is loose," he called out. "Probably from a pothole." "You have tools?" "No. I do not think so." Marcus jogged to his car, grabbed his old toolkit, and worked quickly. "This battery is almost gone," he explained. "You should replace it soon. There is a gas station a couple miles ahead." He felt her watching him. Even in the dark, even through the rain, he sensed her intelligence, the quiet authority she carried. "Try it now," he said. She turned the key. The engine roared to life. Relief softened her entire face. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, reaching for her purse. "Nothing," Marcus said, stepping back. "Just glad I could help." "Wait, please. At least tell me your name." Their eyes met fully for the first time. Rain streaked across his face. But she saw him. Really saw him. "Marcus. Marcus Johnson." "Thank you, Marcus Johnson," she said, her voice warm despite the cold. "You truly saved my night." He nodded, climbed into his car, and drove away as her hazard lights faded in his rearview mirror. He never asked her name. And in his mind, none of it mattered. In 3 weeks, his life might already be over. He had no idea how wrong he was. I believe you are innocent, Marcus, but proving it will be difficult. Those words haunted him. If the court convicted him, he would face up to 5 years. 5 years without Jasmine. 5 years of watching her grow through the cold glass of a prison visitation booth. 5 years of her being passed from one foster home to another because her mother had vanished when she was only 2, leaving behind a single note saying she could not handle this life. The thought carved him open. 7-year-old Jasmine, with her missing tooth, her little shoes always on the wrong feet, alone in a system that did not care. Marcus pushed the fear down and focused on the woman standing in the rain. He approached slowly, hands visible, shoulders lowered. "Ma'am, can I help you? Car trouble?" She hesitated, studying him through the storm. Rain streamed down her face, soaking her clothes until they clung to her like a second skin. Then she made a quick decision and nodded. "It just died. It will not start at all." Her voice, controlled, calm, the kind of voice that came from someone used to command. "Mind if I look?" Marcus asked. "I am no mechanic, but I can try. Please. I would appreciate that." She opened the hood and the rain hammered down harder. Marcus leaned over the engine, grateful for the distraction. This problem he could face. This problem did not involve lies, forged records, or the trial breathing down his neck. Within minutes he found the issue. A loose battery terminal. "Your battery connection is barely holding," he called out. "Probably from a pothole." "You have tools?" "No, nothing like that." Marcus sprinted back to his car and returned with his old metal toolbox, the one he kept together with hope and duct tape. As he tightened the connection and cleaned away the corrosion, he talked softly, just like he did when Jasmine was scared at bedtime. "This battery is nearly gone. You should replace it soon. There is a gas station about 2 miles ahead. They should have what you need." He could feel her eyes on him again. Sharp. Observant. Intelligent. A woman who carried power even in the dark, even with rain running down her face. "Try it now," he said. She slid into the driver's seat and turned the key. The engine roared back to life. Relief washed over her like a warm wave. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, reaching instinctively for her purse. Marcus stepped back, shaking his head. "Nothing. Just glad I could help. Please, at least tell me your name." Marcus turned. Rain streaked across his face, but she saw him clearly in that moment. Saw past the exhaustion, past the worry, past the weight he carried. "Marcus. Marcus Johnson." "Thank you, Marcus Johnson," she said softly. Her voice carried warmth now, a shift he felt deep inside. "You truly saved my night. If only you knew," he thought as he climbed back into his car. "If only you knew a man the world called guilty had just saved you too." He drove away, her hazard lights glowing faintly in his rearview mirror. He never asked her name. He assumed none of it mattered, not with the trial only 3 weeks ahead. He was wrong in ways he could not yet imagine. For a single moment, in the middle of the rain, their eyes met fully. Marcus saw gratitude there, and something deeper. A kind of respect that most people never offered him. He climbed back into his car, drenched and shivering, the storm slamming against the windshield. His heartbeat was still uneven as he drove away. If only she knew, he thought. If only she knew the world believed he was a thief. He never asked her name. He assumed none of it mattered. Because in 3 short weeks, he might not even be around to remember this moment. He could never have imagined how wrong he was. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood inside Cook County Criminal Court. He wore a cheap suit borrowed from Mr. Rodriguez because he could not afford one of his own. His hands were slick with sweat, his stomach twisted into knots, and he felt like he might pass out at any second. This was it. The moment that would decide everything. Would he tuck Jasmine into bed that night, or spend the next 5 years watching her grow up through a thick pane of prison glass? Mr. Rodriguez shuffled papers beside him with the calm of someone who had done this 1,000 times. But Marcus could see the worry behind the lawyer's eyes. They both knew what this looked like. A black man standing against a well-connected accuser like Victor Thompson. The bailiff's voice boomed through the courtroom. All rise for the Honorable Judge Diana Mitchell. Marcus rose on shaking legs. He stared at the floor, unable to lift his eyes toward the person who now held his entire future in her hands. But something, instinct or fate, made him look up. The judge entered, black robes flowing, her posture straight and commanding as she stepped behind the bench. And Marcus felt the air leave his lungs. He knew that face. Those eyes. That quiet authority. That unmistakable presence. His mind flashed back to the rain. The woman beside the red car. The one he had helped in the dark. The one who had looked at him with gratitude and warmth. No, it could not be. It was impossible. But the more he stared, the more sure he became, and the more unreal it all felt. The woman he had helped 3 weeks earlier was now the judge holding his fate. His heart hammered in his chest so hard it hurt. Was he imagining it? The lighting was different now, bright fluorescent instead of shadows and rain. She wore formal robes instead of soaked clothes. Her hair was pulled tightly back instead of hanging wet around her face. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe desperation was tricking his mind into believing in miracles that could not exist. But her eyes, her posture, the familiar shape of her face. Marcus gripped the edge of the defense table, fighting the urge to speak out. How could he even ask? Excuse me, Your Honor, did I fix your car in the rain? He stole a glance at Mr. Rodriguez, but the attorney was lost in his notes, unaware of the storm brewing inside Marcus. Judge Mitchell looked down at the case file, her expression steady, neutral, unreadable. If she recognized him, she gave absolutely no sign. Not a flicker. Not a pause. Nothing. Maybe it was not her. Maybe he was truly losing his mind. The hearing began. The prosecutor launched into his statement, and Mr. Rodriguez answered calmly, but Marcus heard none of it. His mind refused to let go of the question. Was it her? Every time he risked another glance toward the bench, he grew more convinced. And then immediately convinced that he had to be wrong. Then something happened that made his entire body go still. The prosecutor presented the photocopied bank documents. And Judge Mitchell leaned forward, eyes sharp. Mr. Davis, these are photocopies. Where are the originals? Marcus's breath froze in his chest. It was her. It had to be her. But still she gave no sign she recognized him. Her face remained calm and professional as she addressed the prosecutor. I have serious concerns about these documents. This court will not proceed based on photocopies of photocopies. Mr. Rodriguez, I am granting your motion for forensic examination. We will reconvene once we have properly authenticated records. Her gavel struck the wood with a sharp crack, and Marcus flinched. As the courtroom emptied, he stayed frozen in his seat. Mr. Rodriguez leaned close, whispering quickly about how rare and lucky this ruling was. But Marcus barely heard him. His eyes stayed locked on the door Judge Mitchell had walked through. Had she recognized him? Had the woman he helped in the rain just saved him in return? Or was his desperate heart simply clinging to something that was never real? He wanted to believe, but he could not be sure. And that uncertainty would haunt him for the next 2 weeks. Behind her chamber door, Diana Mitchell leaned back against the wooden surface and closed her eyes. Her hands trembled. Her heart raced. She had just seen him. Marcus Johnson. The man who had stopped in the pouring rain to help her. The man who had refused payment. The man who had disappeared into the night without knowing he had saved her too. She had seen the recognition in his eyes the moment she walked into the courtroom. The shock. The confusion. The fragile hope. And she had forced herself to stay perfectly composed. Because if she acknowledged him, even with a glance, even with the smallest change in her expression, she would be forced to recuse herself from the case. And if she recused herself, the case would fall into the hands of Judge Harrison. Judge Harrison, who had a history of denying motions from public defenders. Judge Harrison, who had a 94% conviction rate. Judge Harrison, who would almost certainly send Marcus to prison without blinking. Diana pressed her fingers to her temples. She had just bent nearly every ethical rule in the book. She had used her authority to demand forensic examination that should have been required months ago. She had taken a stand for a man she technically had personal contact with. It was dangerous. Risky. Possibly career-ending. But what choice did she have? Let an innocent man go to prison because the system was too overworked or too indifferent to examine the truth. She had seen the evidence. She had seen how flimsy, messy, and suspicious it was. How easily it could fall apart under real scrutiny. Judge Williams had denied forensic review simply because it was expensive and time-consuming. Marcus Johnson was being railroaded. And she was the only person in the entire building who could stop it. Sometimes justice demands impossible choices, she whispered to herself. She just hoped she had made the right one. The next 2 weeks crawled forward painfully slow for Marcus. He worked shifts at the warehouse. Picked up Jasmine from Mrs. Chen. Read bedtime stories. Pretended everything was normal. But every night, he lay awake replaying the same question. Was it her? Had she recognized him? Had she fought for him because she remembered the rain, or simply because she saw the truth in the evidence? Or was he imagining everything, desperate for a miracle? One night, Jasmine rolled over in her sleep and murmured, "Daddy, you are thinking too loud." Marcus let out a soft breath. "Sorry, baby girl. Go back to sleep." "Is it the court thing?" "Yeah. Mrs. Chen says judges help good people." "I hope so, Jazz. I really hope so." The call came on a Tuesday. Mr. Rodriguez's voice trembled through the phone. "Marcus, the forensic report. It is everything we needed. Victor fabricated all of it. The digital records prove it. You are going to be all right." Marcus's legs gave out. He sat down on a stack of boxes, the phone held tightly to his ear as tears fell freely. "We are going back to court tomorrow. Judge Mitchell wants to reconvene immediately." Judge Mitchell. Was it her? Maybe he would finally know the truth. The next morning, the courtroom was silent as Marcus took his place at the defense table. His heartbeat thudded so loudly he could feel it in his throat. Judge Mitchell returned to the bench with the same calm authority as before, her expression unreadable, perfectly controlled, perfectly neutral. After careful examination of the evidence, she began, her voice steady and commanding, "This court finds that the prosecution's case relies on fraudulent documents. The digital banking records clearly show that Victor Thompson, not Marcus Johnson, committed the embezzlement in question." For a full second, Marcus could not breathe. "Mr. Johnson, all charges against you are hereby dismissed with prejudice." The room erupted with noise, gasps, murmurs, shuffling feet, but Marcus heard none of it. His vision blurred. Tears gathered, hot and overwhelming. He was free. He was finally free. But Judge Mitchell was not finished. "Furthermore," she continued, her voice cutting cleanly through the chaos, "this court is referring the matter to the district attorney with a strong recommendation that charges be filed immediately against Victor Thompson for fraud, embezzlement, forgery, and obstruction of justice." Her gavel fell with finality, a single sharp sound that seemed to echo into Marcus's bones. He looked up at her. Really looked at her. And their eyes met for the briefest fraction of a second. It was her. There was no doubt left in him. The woman he had helped in the pouring rain. The woman who had been stranded and alone. The woman whose car he had fixed using nothing but a worn toolkit and hope. She had been the one fighting for him all along. Before he could speak, before he could even process the storm of emotions building inside him, she gathered her files and disappeared into her chambers with the same professional grace as always. Mr. Rodriguez hugged him fiercely, talking quickly about compensation, civil suits, a clean record, a new beginning. But Marcus barely heard any of it. His eyes stayed fixed on the closed door she had walked through. He needed to thank her. He had to. But how could he approach a judge who had just saved his life and ask her if she was the woman from that rainy night? It felt impossible. It felt inappropriate. It felt like a moment too delicate to touch. So he left the courthouse with freedom in his hands and questions in his heart. But deep down, he already knew the truth. And somehow, someday, he would find a way to tell her. "Thank you." 6 weeks passed like a dream Marcus never wanted to wake from. He found a new job at a hardware store not far from home. Better pay. Better hours. Benefits that actually mattered. He was home for dinner every night. Jasmine covered the refrigerator with drawings of her daddy being free, bright rainbows and crooked letters spelling out words only she understood. Life was peaceful in a way Marcus had almost forgotten existed. But something never stopped tugging at him. A quiet ache. A question unanswered. He had never thanked the judge. Never confirmed what he knew in his heart. That she was the woman from the rain. That she had recognized him. That she had risked everything to save him. He wanted to thank her. He needed to thank her. But he had no idea how. One afternoon, Marcus was restocking shelves in aisle 7, automotive supplies, which somehow felt like fate tapping him on the shoulder, when a soft voice behind him said, "Excuse me, do you know where I might find battery terminals?" He turned. And there she was. Not in black robes. Not holding a gavel. Not behind a bench with an entire courtroom watching. Just a woman in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair down, her expression warm. "It is you," he breathed, the box of windshield wipers slipping from his hands. Her smile widened, gentle and unmistakably genuine. "You recognized me." "How could I not?" Marcus replied quietly. "Your face, your voice. But I kept telling myself maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was desperate for something to hold on to." He stepped closer, his voice lowering. "You knew the whole time that I was the man who fixed your car." She nodded slowly. "From the moment I saw your photo in the case file." The coffee mug I was holding hit the floor and shattered. Marcus swallowed hard. "But you could not say anything." "If I had acknowledged you," she said softly, "I would have been forced to recuse myself. Your case would have gone to Judge Harrison." Understanding washed over him, deep and overwhelming. "And Judge Harrison would have convicted me almost certainly." "He has a very high conviction rate," she admitted. "And no patience for public defenders." "So you risked everything," Marcus whispered. "Your career, your reputation." "I could lose my position if anyone found out," Diana said gently. "I broke more than a few ethical guidelines. But I would do it again." They stood there between shelves of screws and paint cans, the fluorescent lights humming above them, and the moment felt sacred. "Why?" Marcus asked, voice trembling. "Why would you risk so much for someone you met only once?" "Because that one meeting told me everything I needed to know about your character. You stopped in the pouring rain to help a stranger. You used your own worn tools. You refused payment. You were exhausted and drowning in worry, and you helped anyway. That is not the act of a man who steals. That is the act of a man with integrity." Marcus felt tears gathering again. "You saved my life," he whispered. "You saved my daughter from losing her father." "You helped me first," Diana said softly. "You showed me something I had forgotten existed, real human goodness." She hesitated, then smiled. "There is something else. During your trial, you brought your daughter once. She had to wait in the hallway during the session." Marcus nodded. "Jasmine. Mrs. Chen was sick. I had no one else. She drew me a picture," Diana said with a soft laugh. "A judge with a superhero cape. She told the bailiff that I had a magic hammer that makes bad people go away. Despite the weight of everything." Marcus laughed. "She believes your gavel is magic. She tells everyone that the nice lady with the magic hammer saved her daddy." "I would love to see more of her drawings," Diana said gently. "Maybe over coffee, if that is allowed now that the case is finished." "It is allowed," Marcus said, voice thick with emotion. "In fact, I would really like that." "I would like that too." Diana held his gaze, a quiet seriousness in her eyes. "If I had recused myself," she whispered, "your case would have gone to Judge Harrison. And you know what that means." Marcus let out a slow breath as the truth settled over him. Judge Harrison, with his sky-high conviction rate, with his impatience, with his lack of mercy for defendants like Marcus. He would have been found guilty. Almost certainly. "So you risked everything," Marcus said, his voice barely steady. "Your job, your reputation, your career." Diana nodded, her expression gentle and honest. "If anyone ever found out, I could lose my position. I did things I should not have done. I broke ethical guidelines. More than one." But then she stepped closer, and her voice softened in a way that made the fluorescent store lights feel warmer. "I would do it again without hesitation." There were two people standing between shelves of screws and paint cans, but nothing felt ordinary. The moment carried weight. Meaning. A thread that had connected them since the rain. "Why, Diana?" Marcus asked, the question breaking out of him before he could stop it. "Why risk so much for someone you barely knew?" Because, she said, her voice steady, when you stopped to help me that night, you showed me everything I needed to know about your character. You were exhausted, worried, drowning in fear you tried to hide. You were the one who needed help. But you still stopped for a stranger. You used your old toolkit held together by duct tape. You refused payment. You showed integrity when you had every reason to keep driving. A quiet tremor ran through Marcus's chest. You saved my life, Marcus whispered. You saved my daughter's life. If I had gone to prison, she would have been lost. Diana reached out, not quite touching him, but close enough for him to feel the warmth of her presence. You helped me first, she said softly. You reminded me that real human goodness still exists. Then her expression shifted, gentle amusement flickering through her eyes. There is something else. During your trial, you brought your daughter once. She waited in the hallway while we were in session. Marcus nodded. Jasmine. Mrs. Chen was sick. I had no one else that day. She drew me a picture, Diana said, her smile widening. A judge with a superhero cape. She told the bailiff I had a magic hammer that makes bad people go away. Despite everything, despite the heaviness, the fear, the relief, Marcus laughed. A real laugh. The kind he had not heard from himself in months. She believes your gavel is magic. She tells everyone that the nice lady with the magic hammer saved her daddy. I would love to see more of her drawings, Diana said. Then, with visible courage and a softness that made Marcus's heart rise. Maybe we could talk more, over coffee, now that the case is over. Marcus felt something open inside him. Something warm. Something hopeful. It is allowed, he said quietly. More than allowed. I would really like that. A smile formed on her lips. I would like that too. That Saturday, Marcus brought Jasmine to the small cafe near the park. He told her that Miss Diana wanted to see her drawings, and Jasmine had spent the entire morning reorganizing her artwork. And changing her outfit not once, not twice, but 4 times. Is she the magic hammer lady? Jasmine asked, bouncing in place with excitement. She is, Marcus answered, tying her jacket. Is she pretty? Jasmine demanded. Very. Is she nice? The nicest. Then I am wearing my princess dress. The yellow one. Because yellow means happy. And we are happy now, right, Daddy? Marcus knelt in front of her, the fullness of his heart nearly overwhelming him. We are the happiest, baby girl. When they entered the cafe and Jasmine spotted Diana waiting at a corner table, the little girl practically vibrated with excitement. Daddy. Daddy, it is her. It is the magic hammer lady. Before Marcus could react, Jasmine grabbed his hand and dragged him across the room with the unstoppable force only a 7-year-old could possess. Diana stood as they approached, and Marcus watched her expression shift. The professional composure she wore in the courtroom melted away completely. Warmth lit her features. Joy softened her eyes. Hi, I am Jasmine, the little girl announced in a single breath. But you can call me Jazz because Daddy calls me that when I am good. And I am being very good today. The words rushed out so fast Diana barely had time to respond before Jasmine thrust a rolled-up drawing into her hands. See, that is you with the magic hammer. And that is your cape. Superheroes need capes. Obviously. Obviously, Diana agreed, laughing softly as she unrolled the crayon drawing and studied it with heartfelt care. This is beautiful, Jazz. I know, Jasmine replied with pure confidence, already climbing into the chair across from her. I am very good at art. And at eating pancakes. Do they have pancakes here? Marcus arrived at the table slightly out of breath. Jazz, slow down. You are a tiny tornado. Tornadoes are fast and powerful, Daddy. Thank you. Jasmine beamed, completely unaware it was not meant as a compliment. Diana laughed, really laughed, and the sound filled the entire moment with something bright and warm. In the courtroom, she had been all sharp edges and authority. Here, with Jasmine chattering excitedly and Marcus watching her with quiet gratitude, Diana felt real. Approachable. Human. They ordered hot chocolate for Jasmine and coffee for the adults. Conversation flowed effortlessly. Jasmine entertained them with long, dramatic stories about her stuffed animals' adventures. Complete with different voices, wide hand gestures, and enough energy to knock over her hot chocolate twice. And then Mr. Fluffington, who is my rabbit, told Princess Sparklepaws, who is my cat. We must save the kingdom. But then they remembered they cannot read maps. So they got lost in the grocery store instead. That is quite a plot twist, Diana said, smiling as she dabbed spilled chocolate with napkins. I know. I am full of twists. Daddy says I should write movies. Jasmine took a massive sip of her refilled hot chocolate, leaving a perfect whipped cream mustache on her upper lip. Are you going to be Daddy's girlfriend? Because Mrs. Chen says he needs one. He has been mopey for too long. Marcus nearly choked on his coffee as his face went bright red. Jazz. What? Mrs. Chen said it. And I agree. You are pretty. And you have a magic hammer. That is basically the best combination ever. Diana tried not to laugh at Marcus's horror, her eyes glowing with amusement. Well, your dad and I are going to be friends first. And we will see what happens. Okay, Jasmine declared. But I am very good at sharing. Daddy and I make excellent friendship bracelets. If you want one, I use the best colors. Not the boring ones. As Jasmine launched into an enthusiastic explanation of her bracelet-making technique, Marcus looked at Diana. She smiled back at him, warm, understanding, something more than friendship in her eyes. In that moment, Marcus realized something. Something deep. Something certain. Maybe. Just maybe. They had been moving toward this moment from the very first night in the rain. The coffee dates became a rhythm of their own. Sometimes Jasmine came along with her whirlwind of energy. Sometimes it was just the two of them, sitting close, talking long after the cups had gone cold. There was laughter, surprises, and a warmth Marcus had not felt in years. They discovered they both loved old movies. Both were terrible cooks who could set off a smoke alarm with almost no effort. Both had lost parents too soon and carried the quiet weight of responsibility on their shoulders. On their fourth outing, a small trip to the zoo with Jasmine, they stood together watching penguins waddle across their enclosure. Jasmine ran ahead toward the sea lions, her yellow jacket flashing bright against the gray winter sky. Daddy, hold Miss Diana's hand so she does not get lost, she shouted from halfway across the walkway. Marcus blushed. I do not think. It is all right, Diana said softly, slipping her warm fingers into his. For safety. Right. Safety, Marcus answered, though his heart was pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with danger. Her hand fit perfectly in his. Like it was meant to be there. By the third month, they began having dinners alone while Mrs. Chen watched Jasmine. Real dates. Moments where they could talk about dreams and fears, moments where Marcus could breathe in the quiet comfort of someone who truly saw him. And Jasmine always demanded a full report afterward. Did you hold hands? Did Daddy do his nervous laugh? Did you talk about me? You should talk about me. I am the best topic. One evening, after a dinner that stretched on for hours, Marcus walked Diana to her car. The red sedan had a brand new battery. Sometimes Diana joked she should send a thank you letter to the pothole that had knocked the old one loose. Marcus, can I tell you something? She asked, leaning back against the car door. Something honest. Something I should probably not say so soon. You can tell me anything, he said. When I saw your name on the docket that first day, when I realized who you were, I was terrified. Not because of the rules I was breaking, though those were very real. But because, in that one brief moment on Riverside Drive, you showed me something I had forgotten existed. What is that? Marcus whispered. Goodness, she said simply. Pure, human goodness. You had every reason to keep driving. You were exhausted, worried, your life falling apart. And still you stopped for me. Still you helped me. Still you refused money you clearly needed. And I remember thinking, this is someone worth knowing. Someone worth fighting for. Marcus felt emotion rise in his chest so quickly it almost hurt. You risked everything for me, he said. I risked my career, Diana answered gently. You would have risked your daughter. Those are not equal sacrifices. What I did was the bare minimum justice demanded. What you did that night was pure character. Marcus stepped closer, his breath unsteady. He kissed her. Soft, careful, full of promise. When they parted, both were smiling. Jazz is going to lose her mind when she finds out, Marcus said. She will want a full report, Diana teased. She will want to know if there were fireworks. Marcus pulled her close again. Then I will tell her the truth. There were fireworks. The best kind. By the 6th month, Diana had become woven into their daily lives in a way that felt natural and right. She learned that Jasmine hated mushrooms, but would eat any vegetable if you called it power-up food. She learned that Marcus could fix almost anything using only duct tape and stubborn determination. She learned that their small apartment held more love than many mansions. 1 year and 3 months after the trial that nearly destroyed everything, Marcus was ready. He had a plan. He had a ring. Not an expensive one, because expensive was not who they were. But something that sparkled the way Diana's eyes did when she laughed. He planned a sunset proposal at the park where they had shared their 3rd date. The one where Jasmine insisted he hold Diana's hand for safety. Mrs. Chen agreed to watch Jasmine. Everything was prepared. Except for one thing. One crucial thing. Jasmine could not keep a secret for more than 10 seconds. Marcus and Diana walked through the park, heading toward the perfect spot where he had rehearsed his speech at least 20 times. He reached into his pocket, feeling the ring box. Then a small voice shrieked from behind a tree. Are you going to ask her to marry us yet? The ring is burning a hole in your pocket, Daddy. That is what Mrs. Chen said. Diana gasped, her hands flying to her mouth as her eyes filled with shock and a joy so bright Marcus felt it in his chest. Jasmine came running toward them, bouncing like an excited puppy. Jazz, Marcus groaned, his face turning bright red. You were supposed to be at Mrs. Chen's. It was supposed to be a surprise. Well, Mrs. Chen and I decided I should be here for the important moment, Jasmine said proudly. And the surprise part is hard. Really hard. It is like trying not to laugh when someone says the word, poopy. You just cannot stop it. Several people in the park turned to look. A few even pulled out their phones. Marcus felt the world tilt sideways with embarrassment, but when he looked at Diana, she was laughing and crying at the same time. So he did the only thing he could do. He got down on one knee. Right there. In front of strangers, his 8-year-old daughter bouncing beside him, and Diana's eyes shining brighter than any jewel he could have bought. Diana Mitchell, he said, holding the ring box with shaking hands. You saved my life in every way a person can be saved. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed in me when no one else did. You looked at my rusty toolkit and saw character instead of poverty. You looked at my chaotic daughter. I am not chaotic, I am enthusiastic, Jasmine corrected loudly. Marcus smiled. My enthusiastic daughter. And somehow you loved us both. You made us a family. You made us whole. Sometimes the person you help in the darkness becomes the light that saves you. Will you marry us? Say yes. Say yes. Jasmine shouted. I already picked my flower girl dress. It is yellow. Diana was crying fully now, tears streaming down her face. Her smile was radiant. Yes, she breathed. Yes to both of you. All of you. Forever. Jasmine launched herself into Diana's arms with the strength of 10 children. I knew it. I told Daddy. Mrs. Chen owes me $5. Marcus blinked. You bet on this? Well, yeah, Jasmine said proudly. I had inside information. I am basically a professional matchmaker. The small crowd cheered. A woman nearby called out, best proposal I have ever seen. Thank you. Jasmine yelled back, waving like a celebrity. I helped plan this. Marcus pulled Diana close and kissed her. Jasmine made a dramatic gagging noise. Then immediately asked, Okay, now that it is over, can we get ice cream? Because this is definitely an ice cream moment. The wedding was planned for the following spring. Jasmine took her role as flower girl and self-appointed wedding coordinator with absolute seriousness. She created detailed lists, color-coded charts, and insisted on multiple dress rehearsals. We have to practice, Daddy, she warned. What if I forget how to throw petals? What if I throw them too hard and they hit someone in the face? That would ruin the photos. Marcus smiled. I think you will do great, baby girl. I know I will, she replied confidently. I am simply being thorough. That is what professionals do. The day of the wedding arrived with the kind of perfect spring weather that makes the whole world feel hopeful again. The garden venue was decorated simply but beautifully, rows of white chairs, gentle flowers hanging from tree branches, sunlight filtering through the leaves like nature's own blessing. Mrs. Chen, who had become like a grandmother to Jasmine, wept openly from the moment she sat down. Mr. Rodriguez, the public defender who had once fought for Marcus when no one else would, stood proudly as best man. In his toast, he said, "I have seen a lot of justice in my career. But watching these two find each other, that is something the courtroom could never deliver. That is the universe making things right." Sarah, Diana's longtime clerk from the courthouse, served as maid of honor. She cried through half the ceremony and into several tissues. And Jasmine, now 8.5, the half being extremely important, walked down the aisle in her beloved yellow dress. Her steps were supposed to be slow and graceful, but she skipped instead. Skipping is more joyful, she later explained to every guest who asked. And this is a joyful day. It is scientifically proven that skipping makes you happier. I read it somewhere. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the union, Jasmine leaned toward Mrs. Chen and whispered. Only it was not really a whisper. "If anyone says anything, I will fight them. I took a karate class. I know 3 moves." The guests burst into warm laughter, and even the officiant had to pause to regain composure. When the time came for Jasmine to present the rings, she carried the little pillow as if it contained the keys to the universe, walking with exaggerated care. Then she lifted her chin proudly and announced to the entire room, "Just so everyone knows, I set them up. I am basically a professional matchmaker. If anyone here needs help finding love, please see me after the ceremony. My rates are very reasonable. Mrs. Chen, you are next on my list." Mrs. Chen nearly choked on her champagne. The vows themselves were simple, but profound. Marcus promised to always stop for strangers in the rain. To keep fixing what he could with duct tape and hope. To be the father Jasmine deserved. And the husband Diana had never imagined she would find. Diana promised to always fight for justice, even when the path was hard. To use her magic hammer wisely. To embrace the beautiful chaos that came with loving a tornado in an 8-year-old body. And to never take for granted the man who showed her what true character looked like. As they exchanged rings, Jasmine whispered to Mrs. Chen proudly, "This is the best thing I have ever done. I am really good at this matchmaking stuff." The reception was exactly what Jasmine had hoped for, loud, joyful, unpredictable, and full of stories she felt compelled to retell to every guest. She taught Sarah from the courthouse how to do the floss dance. She critiqued the DJ's playlist. "We need more songs from Encanto. Way more Encanto. This is a wedding, not a dentist's office." She also made sure everyone knew the complete origin story of her parents' love. "So basically, Daddy fixed her car in the rain because he is nice," Jasmine explained proudly. "Then she used her magic hammer to save him from the bad guy because she is awesome. Then I drew a picture because I am artistic. Then they fell in love because obviously they should. Then I told them to get married because I am smart. And now we are a family. Any questions?" One guest raised his hand. "So you are responsible for all of this?" "Obviously," Jasmine replied without hesitation. "I mean, they helped a little. But mostly it was my excellent planning. I am gifted." As Marcus and Diana shared their first dance, she rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, "I broke so many ethical guidelines for you." Marcus smiled softly. "Was it worth it?" Diana looked over at Jasmine, who was now teaching Mr. Rodriguez how to do the worm with absolutely no success, but infinite enthusiasm. She looked back at Marcus, her voice full of certainty. "Every single one," she whispered. Then she kissed him as their family and friends applauded. "Get a room," Jasmine yelled from across the dance floor. "Just kidding. This is romantic. Keep going." Later, during what was supposed to be the father-daughter dance but became a family dance because Diana insisted on joining, Jasmine looked up at both of them with rare seriousness. "I am really happy," she murmured. "Like, the happiest I have ever been in my whole entire life." "Me too, baby girl," Marcus whispered. "Me three," Diana added, pulling them both closer. "Good," Jasmine said matter-of-factly. "Because now I have a mom who can teach me about the law. And a dad who can teach me about fixing cars. And I will be unstoppable." I am going to run the world someday. Marcus groaned playfully. That is what I am afraid of. Also, can we get a dog now? Jasmine asked suddenly. Because families should have dogs. It is basically a rule. I checked. We will talk about it, both parents answered in perfect unison. Jasmine smirked triumphantly. That is parent talk for maybe. Yes. You both said maybe. I am wearing you down. It is already working. Sometimes people think they know exactly how their story will end. Marcus used to believe his would end in a courtroom, under the echo of a gavel sealing his fate and separating him from his daughter forever. He believed the world was a place where character did not matter. Where people like him never got a second chance. Where the system crushed those without power. But he had been wrong. Very wrong. Victor Thompson was now serving 5 years for fraud and embezzlement. Once the real evidence was examined, the truth had been undeniable. Justice had been served. Even if it took an unconventional path to get there. Marcus spent months believing the system would destroy him. Never knowing that the system, in the form of one remarkable woman with a conscience stronger than her fear, had been fighting for him all along. And Diana. She had spent years delivering justice from behind a bench, making decisions that shaped the lives of people she barely knew. She believed for a long time that following the rules was the same as doing what was right. But she learned something through Marcus. Something she had not allowed herself to believe in for far too long. Sometimes justice is not found in the rules. Sometimes justice lives in the heart. She learned that the greatest judgment you can make is choosing compassion. Even when policy tells you to turn away. Even when the world demands distance instead of humanity. Jasmine gained far more than a stepmother. She gained a woman who taught her that being strong and being kind can live in the same breath. A woman who showed her that the bravest thing you can do is believe in someone. Even when the world does not. A woman who proved that magic hammers are real. Not because they are made of wood and metal. But because of how you choose to use them. She also learned that an 8-year-old with a plan and unlimited confidence should never be underestimated. And the three of them. A black father who believed in helping a stranger in the dark. A judge who believed in justice over blind rules. And a little girl who believed in magic. Became the kind of family none of them even knew they were searching for. A family built from kindness. From courage. From second chances. From a single moment in the rain that changed everything. And sometimes, that is all the world needs. Just one moment. One act of goodness. One choice that leads to everything else. If this story reminded you that kindness has a way of returning to us in the most unexpected moments, then you already understand the heart of this journey. If it reminded you that a single decision, a single pause on a rainy night, can change a life, or even save one, then share it with someone who needs hope today. Because we all have the power to stop in the rain. We all hold a magic hammer in our hands. Not the kind you find in a toolbox, but the kind made of courage, compassion, and the willingness to do what is right. And every time you use it, every time you choose kindness over fear, you might be changing someone's story in ways you will never fully understand. What is the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you? Tell us in the comments below. Your story might be the next one we tell. Because kindness travels farther than we think. And its echoes, once set in motion, can change the world.